I am Teacher Maleha.
And I'm Teacher Zia.
We are now your teachers for this subject. So, how's your day? Is it good so far? Okay, nice to hear. Before we start the lesson for this morning, may I call Caroline to lead the prayer? Okay, thank you. So, kindly arrange your chairs and pick up those pieces of paper and plastics in your chairs.
Is anyone absent? Okay, very good. So yesterday, we gave you an assignment. So did you bring your assignment? Okay, so please pass it to me. Before we start to our lesson, group yourself into two because we have a play game named Puzzle. So each group will create a words related to our lesson. So the group who will win this game will have a prize. So this is the prize. I will discuss now about the verbs types and then the verbs tenses. But before we begin, I will explain the meaning of verbs. So verbs have traditionally been defined as a word or state of being or shows as an actions. So when you hear the word verbs, it is technically known as an actions when describes someone or what something doing. So verbs have an example. For instance, she tasted the stove. So the word tasted is an action word that doing someone or that she is tasted the stove. Okay, so there are four types of verbs: the intransitive, the transitive, linking, and the passive voice. So intransitive. The subject and verb express a complete thought without an object. The verb can, however, be followed by an adverb or other modifier. So which means intransitive verbs can express actions but do not take an object. Intransitive are there's no sentence that tells who or what the receipt of an object. So intransitive verbs have a questions. So every sentence have a questions. For instance, I run. So why are you running? So that's why intransitive consider asking a questions why. Number 2, transitive verbs. Verbs that express actions that terminates in or is received by an object. Also, because transitive verbs require direct objects to make sense, they can stand alone when only a subject. So, when transitive verbs appear in a sentence, the direct objects answer the questions what. For instance, intransitive verbs are Herman buys. So what Herman buys? So that's why transitive verbs are asking questions what. So if you include the groceries on Herman buys, then there is no answer asking questions. Then the sentence are make a sense. Number 3, linking. Verbs of the senses like feel and limited number of other verbs like be that link the subject of the sentence with a complement. So, linking for the short term are always followed by an adjective and collectively known as a complement. So, for instance, the stew tasted good. So, the stew is a subject, tasted is a linking verb, and the good is a complement. Just always remember that linking are collectively known as a subject complement. Number 4 is passive voice. Verbs that allow the subject to receive the actions rather than to do actions. So which means that a subject is recipient of a verb action. So you may have learned that passive voice is weak and incorrect, but it isn't that simple. Because passive voice is when used correctly and moderation. So for instance, in passive voice is the novel was read by a man in one day. So was read is a passive voice. Okay, so let's proceed to the verbs tenses. So what is verb tenses? Verb tenses, it tells you when person did something existed or happened. So there are 6 kinds of tenses. The present, past, future, perfect, past perfect, and future perfect. So number 1 in verb tense, the present. Tense is the stem of the infinitive to see, to use, and to drive. Because present is used to describe things that are happening right now or things that are continuous. So for instance, in present is he walks to the store. So the sentence are used in present tense because of the word walk and tells you he is in the process of getting to the store on foot now. Okay, so number 2 is past. What is past? So as you can see, there are only 3 words that write in the meaning of past. The you, the saw, the use, and the driving. Because past is usually formed by adding the ed, this is the ed, and the en. Use and driving, or by changing a vowel inside the verb.
So next is future. Future is a form by adding will and shall. For instance, we will drive or we will see. So number 4 is perfect. Perfect is a form by adding have and has to the past participle of verb. Like for instance, I have seen, he has been used, he has been driven. So past perfect is a form by adding had to the past participle of verb. So like for example, he had used, he had seen, and you have driven. The last one is future perfect. So future perfect is a form by adding shall have and will have to the past participle of verb. So like for instance, I shall have seen, I will have used, or I will have driven.
So for your activity, group yourself into 3 groups. So each group will make a 5 sentence that has a verb tenses.
And for your assignments, make a 2 sentences of transitive and linking verb, and also the verb tenses, present, past, and future.
That's all for today,
Goodbye, class!
and thank you for listening.